In this video, I'm turning snacks into movie posters. I picked 3 American favorites, and we're starting with M&Ms. I'm trying to cover every genre in this series, so today M&Ms are going into space. First thing first, we need a background, so I'm gonna import a planet and paint the space around it, before adding some stars for texture. Now, of course we need an M&M, so I cut one out, but if he's in space, he's gonna need a spacesuit. The problem is, spacesuits aren't round like M&Ms, so I basically had to stitch one together and warp it until it fits. That's nice, but he still needs a helmet, otherwise he's gonna suffocate. So let me grab a snow globe and realize it's not actually transparent. Okay, so I found a proper transparent one. I'm gonna warp it and add reflections. But you know what? This poster still feels way too peaceful. So let's smash his helmet. Now, he probably isn't very happy about that, so let's flip his mouse upside down. We still need a reason for the helmet being cracked, so I'm gonna add an asteroid, and why not a spaceship on fire? As usual, we need to paint some shadows. All we need now is a title for a poster. And typography has always been one of my weaknesses, until today. Thanks to Skillshare, the sponsor of this video, I was able to follow Aaron's Draplin class, customizing type with Draplin, creating word marks that work, and learned so much about typography. The first lesson taught me to look for inspiration, so I looked at every space movie I could recall and what their title looked like. What often happened in my previous work is the title lacked personality, and that's why I wanted to customize today's type to match the vision I have for this poster. One of my favorite parts of this class is how much he iterates, and how he isn't scared to get weird and experiment. I'm gonna bring the two M's together and have the end sit in between with an outline. And then I'll include the S and the apostrophe inside of the second M, and it really feels like I'm making a pretty unique type for my poster. The amazing thing about Skillshare is that the classes are bite-sized, which makes it easy to fit a little bit of learning within your day, even when you're busy. This particular class already has over 45,000 members, and I can see why. Aaron is a very successful entrepreneur and creative, and his classes are just full of added value. And of course, on Skillshare you can not only learn about design, but also art, illustration and photography from industry professionals and super talented creatives. So if you're interested to know more about typography or any other creative skill, I have an offer for you. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan this QR code will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and back to our poster. Let's add our title in Photoshop. And here it is. That's definitely a movie I would watch. The next one is Reese's, which is tricky because they don't actually have a mascot. And that means I have to make one. I started by importing references from Inside Out and photos of Reese's cups. Step 1 is building the body. I used the polygon tool and rounded off the edges. Now that's a Reese's cup if I've ever seen one. We can take a bite of it, and of course we need the peanut butter filling inside of it. But it still doesn't have a face. So I drew some sad eyes and gave him a mouse with a blurry shadow underneath. The problem is, right now, he just rolls around like a boulder. And if he's gonna be a real character, he's gonna need arms, legs, and shoes. So I drew them in. To add some drama, I also drew an umbrella. Making eyes is usually difficult, but I did pretty good.
Nice job, team.
Then it needed some quick shading. Except the background really sucks, so let's swap it for a low poly backdrop. I do want a more dramatic sky, so I'm blending some dark clouds in there. And of course, we need some rain and a title. Our final poster is Planters Peanuts. This brand has been around forever, so I wanted to do something different. A 70s inspired poster. Something like Black Sunday, Manhattan, or Rocky. Step 1 is figuring out the layout using this black rectangle. Now, getting a good image of Mr. Peanuts is almost impossible, but I stole a frame from the electric state and cut him out. This body is kinda weird, but it's gonna work. Probably. And the other half of his hat came from the same movie. At one point, I thought robot arms would be a good idea. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. A solid black background feels way too empty, so I dropped in a vintage photo of New York, and then proceeded to make everything black and white. But without color, we didn't have much contrast between the background and the mascot, so let me paint in some haze behind him, and add a camera filter for some extra contrast. Now for the fun part, a technique I've never used before. Adding grain and a posterized effect, limiting the image to only 4 shades, while giving it this nice noisy gradients. I just love this look. It's still a bit empty though, so I added the title as well as the all universal logo and Planter's icon at the bottom. As for the text, it's straight from Planter's Wikipedia. I wasn't very inspired. Finally, I threw on some paper texture, and honestly this might be one of my favorite posters I've ever made. And if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this one too.